Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Rox here. Welcome back to another video. And like I said previously in my other video, I'm also doing story times on this server, which is what this video is, if you can't tell by the title. And like I said, for a little context, if you haven't watched that other video, if you haven't, I'm gonna link that video there, like in an info card, if you guys want to check that out, just so you understand what I'm talking about. Maybe, hopefully. So I'm gonna go into my a story about how I dealt with some really interesting people at my job. Um, so basically, I worked at a theme park. You know, I I was a ride operator, so I was in charge of making the ride, go vroom or move. And one of the rides we had there was a train. Now, thankfully, this is decently PG, so I don't think it's gonna get me in any trouble. But I was in charge of running the train. I was the engineer, but I was told that there was also an option to have an attendant, which basically would have meant since I was driving the train, because our park rule was in order to drive the train, you had to be 18. But we had rides there that, you could be 17, 16 to operate. And the train was one of the ones that you had to be 18. And since I was 19 at the start of it, I'm 20 now, and I was 20 at one point when I ran it, but it meant that I was able to run it. I was also one of, I think, at one point, the most we had certified on it was, I believe, 3 or 4. But they give some details about this train. It was, trying to say it nicely, a little interesting. It was unique in a way that it had a really bad overheating issue. And I don't mean like oh, it would like, oh, it was just a little hard to hold something. No, I'm talking like it would get, like, you could feel the heat coming out of that train if you stuck, like, in the station. I wanna say our station, we had, like, a 2, 3-foot gap in between the wall and where the train, like, where I would be, and, like, where that window was to, feel the engine block. Um, yeah, you could feel the heat coming out of there from that distance away at the wall. That's the kind of overheating issue I mean. I was running it, but this day goes back to, think it was, like, one of the first few days it was open. And this was before we knew about the issue, like it overheating a bunch. So I was running the train, right? I'm doing my little thing. I give my whole spiel. Please remain seated inside the train while it's in motion. Do not get up unless I tell you to do so. All that fun stuff that everybody listens to. You'll see where I'm going with in this story. And I was given a rule. You know, blow the whistle twice when I'm about to leave. And I was also told by my manager, who also happened to be like second in line for the park's operation, that once I close that gate, I am not to open it unless I'm offloading for an issue or I'm back at the station. So, me doing my job right, once I once I was I don't even think the train wasn't full. I mean, I'll be honest, like I don't even think we had 50% capacity. But I was given those instructions that, you know, if there's no one in line, and I waited like a good 5 minutes before I shut the gate before I like closed down the line and was going to like run the train. So, I did that. I did my spiel, blah blah blah. But and then I go to sit down. And I don't think I need to explain how a train works, but so I'm not gonna. So I'm sitting at the front of the engine. So just to give an idea of how the station may have looked, just to give a little picture in your guys' head, it was basically like it was like on a turn in a way. Like you would when you're pulling in and out of the station, you're turning in and out of it at the same time. So, and I don't know exactly how long it was. I don't know exactly how far of a distance it was, but it was like a good couple feet from the state, like from where I would be sitting to the station, like to where the gate was. And not to mention, our train ran on gas, so it was pretty loud. And basically, I'm running it. I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing my rocks thing. I'm moving the choo choo along, doing my job, what I'm paid to do. Lo and behold, as I'm moving it, I can hear like guests and like who are actively on the train being like, wait, wait, wait. So I'm just thinking like, okay, is there something wrong with it? Is someone doing something they're not supposed to? So I look behind me and there's this guy, and I had done my check. There was no one in line when I went, and I want to say there's like a minute walk. I had not seen anyone running beforehand, so I'm confused. Like, okay, is there like an issue I did not notice? Because every time I'm walking past, I always check my train, and I'm like, okay, is there anything wrong that I haven't noticed? Because I care about safety. And then I come to find out that someone's like, no, there's no issue. But in the span of, I want to say, the walk took 30 seconds from where I closed the gate to where I get on my seat and I would move the train, like to where I'd sit. I don't even think that walk was actually 30 seconds. It depended. Because I was mostly there because, well, at the time I ended up being the only person certified on it for the longest time. Basically, I had looked behind me, being like, okay, what is happening? Am very confused. Please fill me in. And lo and behold, in that span of time that I had walked away to get onto the seat to drive the train, to literally when he yelled, like when I first heard, someone had, I don't know if they opened the gate or like just hopped it, but they did one of those two and was in the train. You know, it's not a huge, well, it's a huge deal. Like you're breaking a rule, but he got on the train when he wasn't supposed to. So I was like, okay, what? And I couldn't hear them because that engine be loud. So I'm just like, okay, what's happening? And then I finally hear, and I like say to the person, like, because basically the way this train was set up is that you had the actual like locomotive itself that moved and everything, that chugged everything along. That the only seat that was there was my seat. Then directly behind me is where all the passenger carts started. So I look at one of the passengers who was thankfully there was someone there in that front seat, and I was like, "What are they saying? I cannot understand a word they're saying." And it's like, "Oh, well, he was asking if so and so can get on." I'm like, "No, I've already started moving." And go boy, did I learn that I regret saying that. So basically, then what had happened was it was like she relayed that. He got really annoyed that apparently I let him on. I was like, "Sir, I never let you on this train. I had shut that gate. I don't know what you did, but whatever you did, clearly you were not supposed to do it." And then he gets all mad at me and is like, "Well, you can't tell me what to do." I was like, "Actually, But then I'm just like being like, actually, yes, I can. I am responsible for yours and everyone else's here safety. Like, it's not Burger King. You can't do what you want. You can have however you can't do it however you want. There are rules you have to follow, and if you don't, well, you actually get kicked out. Which we've had a couple of that kind of stuff happen. One of them actually did happen because of the train. Um, the biggest rule we have, and you've heard me say it a bunch, was do not get off the train while it's moving. I assume you can guess what has happened. This one thankfully didn't really have much of a story, so I'll just put it here. But, you know, someone did that. They were kicked out of the park. Because, well, first of all, that's incredibly reckless and stupid what they would have done. But also, it's a train. Yeah, it don't stop on a dime. Like I can start the air brake or I can start the brake, but it's still going to be a good bit before the brake kicks into full. So, that's time that it's like still moving and a danger to people. And thankfully when I've run it, we have not had an incident where someone has actually gotten hurt. Um well, the only times people have gotten hurt where when they were mentally hurt because they didn't like my answer. Which, that one's always fun. But back to the main story. So, I told him that I didn't even know he was getting on this train because he wasn't supposed to in the beginning. Like, the gate was shut. He should not have done it. Then he's like, well, this isn't fair. Why was I let on? It's like, sir, I didn't even know. And then I was like, sir, I didn't even know you got on this train. Because, silly me, because I assumed that it was common sense that if that gate was closed and I was not over there opening it, you don't get on the train. But I guess silly me for assuming that people had common sense sometimes. Like, you have to wait. And I don't want it to seem like, this wait would have been super long. I mean, it was a decent amount of waiting, but, it wasn't like it was a 1-2 hour thing. It would be an hour wait if it overheated. And that's a story for another video. So basically, he's like saying that, I don't even know what he called me. Because, like I said, I couldn't hear him. Because, as I've said, train engine very loud, hard to hear. But what it seemed like he said to me was that I am somehow I'm somehow racist for not letting him get on the train because the gate was closed and I was moving the train. That's what it seemed like he said. But I, at the same time, don't know if that is what he said. And if that even is what he said, like, come on. Dude, like, he knows as well as I do that isn't racist. Like, come on, my guy. Like, seriously. It's like, because it's not like I said something that could have been implied as that being racist. I had said to him, literally, it's like I had have already started moving the train. Unfortunately, because I have already started moving and that gate was closed at that time, I cannot let anyone else on this train. Like, I was being polite about it. I could have been rude, but I didn't want to be rude because I didn't know the kind of day that guy was having. I didn't know what he would do. And also, I live under the belief of, like, I will treat you like you're my friend until you prove otherwise. So, until I have a reason to not want to be nice to you, I'm going to be as nice as I can. Because that's how I was raised. Like, treat others how you want to be treated. And even if you're treating me like rudely, I'm still gonna be nice. Cause I wouldn't want to be treated rude. Like I wouldn't want to be treated like I'm human garbage, which seemed to be happening a lot when I worked there. So the guy says whatever he said to me. Like I said, I don't know what he actually said because I couldn't hear him. And eventually, I was just like, okay, because I was sitting there at that point, I think for 5 minutes, and him just like yelling at me. And I was like, dude, I I mean, well, actually, I'm gonna say I couldn't have cared less what he was complaining about. I had a job I was taught how to do. I was doing my job how I was taught. You got a problem with that? Like I've said to people, I'm not paid to care about your complaints because I'm not customer service. I am a ride operator. I am paid to run the rides. It sounds mean, but it's the truth. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, yes, I care about people's opinions, but at the same time, it's like, look, I have a job to do. You're kind of interfering in that. I would like for you to stop so I can do my job and go home. It's nothing against you. It's just, I was taught how to do my job. I'm going to do my job how I was taught. End of discussion. But he didn't like that answer. Shocking. Someone didn't like me telling them no. But at the same time, there isn't anything I can do. Like even if I wanted to, which I didn't. I want to be honest. He was very rude to me. Actually, I think this guy did end up getting kicked out of the park. I don't know what happened to him, but eventually I just like radioed for a supervisor and was like, "Look, I'm gonna be honest. Can you deal with this guy who's complaining? Because it's like I don't know what you expect me to do." And apparently he didn't like that I called for my supervisor. So he starts complaining then. And then it's like, oh, wow, you couldn't handle this yourself. You got to call him back up. Like, just childish complaints. And it's like, if I wanted to, I could have handled it myself. I didn't want to. I wanted to drive the train. And anytime I tried to talk to him, he would just get loud and aggressive and just not want to listen. So it's like, yeah, I did get back up. Because I also called for security. It's like, you don't want to listen to me. He's like being very aggressive to me. It's like, there's a point where it's just, okay, you're not going to want to listen to me. I'm just getting someone else who actually is paid more than I am to maybe feign they care more. And, we're always told to, like, point them to guest services. And I was like, sir, if there's an issue with what I'm doing, you can go talk to guest services. He's like, no, that's not enough. I want you to let us on. It's like, well, sir, I can't let you guys on. Like, I don't I don't know what you want me to do. I'm not breaking the rules I signed and agreed to when I signed my agreement form. Like I don't want to get fired for that. If I'm going to get fired, I want it to be for something funny. Like if I'm getting fired, I want it to be for filling up all the water in the water park with orange juice instead of the water, or replacing it all with soda. Or putting red dye in there and making people think that I was bit by a shark. Like that's what I want to get fired for. I don't want to get fired over something like that. immediately tell my supervisor, I'm like, and the security when they get there, because security got there first, because the way the train station, where the train station was, is basically you walk into the park, like once you're through the admissions gate and everything, you walk up a little bit. There was a game stand, like the like a throw such and such, and if you get it, you win like a ridiculously like a cheap toy that you probably buy for a lot less than you paid to win it. And that like you pass one of those, and then there's a train station, and there was always like a few security guards at that gate at all times because they have metal detectors there now. That's not important. Well, actually, that's important for another story. That's fun. Um, but so I'm just saying to them, I say like, look, he's being belligerent. He's not listening to me. He's being very aggressive. And they're like, okay, what all start calls all this? I'm like, and this is like essentially word for word what I said. I didn't let him on the train, but he had gotten on anyway. And then he wanted everyone else in his party to get on, but I was saying no because he wasn't even supposed to be on here in the first place. And security just stares at me, just like, are you being serious? Like that's the look they have, and I just give the look on my face. I'm like, yeah, I'm being dead serious. Like this is why I had to call you over here. Then my supervisor comes, and basically we had three supervisors at one point, but due to reasons I either do not know or am not allowed to disclose. I'll be honest, it's a mix of both. I'm not allowed to discuss what actually happened with him, but then there's also parts of I don't know exactly what happened. You know, I can't discuss it. So we ended up having two. Our one supervisor only worked weekdays, Monday through Friday. And the other was Monday to Wednesday, was off Thursday, and then worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it so happened that the one that was working at the time was the one who always seemed to be overworked. So he was in a bad mood already. I don't know why he was, because I don't like involving myself with other people's business. If it doesn't directly concern me, rather, I'm not involving myself in it. But basically, he's the one who comes over and is like, "Okay, what happened?" And then I tell him. He just gets all annoyed. He's like, "Okay, run the train. I'll deal with this." I'm like, "You got it, boss." And so I go run the train. That's the last I heard of it until I got back to the station. I found out when I went to clock out for the day, like at closing time, because I worked open to close that day. At least I think I worked open to close that. I don't even remember anymore. But I asked my supervisor, I'm like, hey, what happened to this guy that like had the issue with me? He's like, oh, management had to come down. He actually escalated to the point where the general manager of the whole, like, head honcho of that park had to come down, and he complained about me. Like, he complained about Whittle and me. He's like, this employee was extremely rude. He did that, like, he's saying like I called them names and stuff, which I didn't. I'd be the first woman. If I called him a name, I would have said it in this video. But no, I never called him any names because I don't do that. I don't like it. Like I wouldn't want to be called names. I'm not going to call you a name. So then, come to find out, they started to investigate, but my supervisor liked me, so he was like, and I want like he didn't like me in a weird way. He respected me because I always did my job right. He never really had any complaints about me. In fact, the only time he was ever told about me, anytime he heard about me through guests, was them telling him like that I'm super polite and friendly and everything. Like I've never had issues. So I go back and I find out that later on, he's like playing to management about me apparently, which I don't know why I find that so funny. But basically, he complained. They're like, okay, well, we aren't going to just get rid of him like that. We're going to investigate. And he's like, well, no, there's like he essentially tried to get me fired for stuff I didn't do, and essentially for doing my job. Which, people are probably like, if anyone younger, finds this video and is like, like that's not fair. It's like, well, it happens a lot more than you think. I'm gonna be honest. Like, sometimes people just don't, are just like, are just set on ruining someone's day because they are in a bad mood. You know, anyone who's older watching this, you might know firsthand how much people like trying to ruin other people's jobs for them because they didn't like what they said. Maybe like I had a lady actually say to me because I said good morning. I hope you have a good day. Oh, oh no, this is that's a different one for another day. What happened with this different one is I had said God bless you because she sneezed and I'm a nice person. I like to think, and I said God bless you because it's nice. It's a nice thing to do. And she's like, oh, well, that's rude. I was like, how is that rude? It's like, well, I'm Jewish, and it's like, ma'am, you sneezed. I was just saying bless you. It was like, well, you didn't have to say God. It's like, ma'am, I didn't have to say bless you at all. I was saying it to be nice. Like that kind of. I wish I was making that up. That actually happened, and it was to this day one of the funniest things I've had happen to me there. I mean, yeah. But so I find out like that, he's complained about me for whatever reason. He made up this whole excuse how I was super rude and everything, and then, you know, thankfully one of the guests beforehand was like, I was on the train when this happened, and gave like exactly what happened. And there's security cameras nearby. And also, you have other employees near me who heard the whole fiasco happen, and they're like backing up what the guests is saying. Like, no, he wasn't rude at all. In fact, he was way nicer than I would have been to him. So it was like, okay, so you just made a false accusation, and they didn't tell me that he was kicked out, but I'm assuming he might have been. And it was just funny. That day alone had the most interesting, like, series of fortunate or unfortunate events, however you want to look at it. I find it fortunate because it was hilarious what had happened. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you want to see more story times too. If we get, I would honestly say even like 10 likes, I'll go into more deep. I'll tell the other story that happened on that same day where someone was actually arrested. But all right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Love you guys. Peace out.